Hello, I'd like to show you how to take a grayscale or black and white image and convert it into a color image or a hand colored image. You can see that we can add color to a black and white image by merely doing this. Let me show you the method I would use to do that. First of all, we're going to take an image and open it up into Photoshop. This image happens to be a grayscale image or a black and white image. We need to take this image right now and convert it into a RGB file. To do that, we're going to go up on top to the upper menu up here, click on Image, Mode, and drop down to RGB Color. And we're going to click on that, and even though you didn't see the color change, now we are in RGB mode, which will allow us to paint with color. The next thing we want to do is we want to duplicate this layer, or not necessarily the flowers, but create another layer over in our layer palette. The way to do that would be to drop down to the bottom of the layer palette and click on the new layer icon, and it's going to put a layer on top of our flower image that we have right here. The next thing we want to do is we want to grab a brush. So we're going to go over to our tool palette. We're going to click on the brush, or you can hit the B key on your keyboard and that will put you into the brush mode. We also want to come in and make sure we have a proper brush size. One way to use brush sizes, or to do a brush size, is to use your brackets on the keyboard. The right bracket will give you a larger brush. The left bracket will give you a smaller brush. However, there's a quicker and more efficient way of doing that in Photoshop. If you hold down the Control Option key on a Mac or a Control Alt key on a PC and click your mouse and drag it to the right, you can enlarge or make your brush smaller merely by moving your mouse left to right. If you want to define the edge of your brush, you can also hold down the Control Option or Control Alt key on your keyboard, click on your mouse and move your mouse up and down, and it will give you either a hard edge brush or a soft edge brush. For this particular assignment, we want to do something in the neighborhood of a brush about this size with a hardness of about somewhere in here, and that should work for what we want to do to color the petals and the buds of these tulips. The next thing you want to do is make sure that you've got the opacity on your brush set to about 100% up here at the top in the options panel. Also make sure that your flow is 100%. Make sure that your airbrush icon is clicked off like this, and I think we're ready to go. First thing we want to do is we want to come in here and we need some kind of color. There's a couple of ways to get color. One way would be to go to your color swatches. If you know where your palette is, you can bring that up. If you don't see your color swatch palette, you can always go up under Windows and drop down to where it says Swatches and click on that, and it's going to bring up a palette that has all of your colors on it. I like to make a modification to this because sometimes the colors are so small you can't see it. So one thing that you can do is come over to the drop down menu on the swatches palette and click on large thumbnails. This makes your colors a little bit easier to pick. That would be one way of grabbing a color and using it over here on the flower petals. I'm going to take this palette right now, and you can either leave it freestanding on your desktop here, or you can shrink it down and add it over here to your color palettes in a compact mode. Anytime that you want to use your swatches now, you can click on this icon right here and it'll bring up your color swatches. If you want to get rid of it, you can click right here. Another way to grab color for your tulips would be to come over to the color picker over here where you have the foreground color and the background color. I'm just going to click on the foreground color right here, and you'll notice that you can create just about any color you can possibly think of by moving the sliders back and forth and picking a color that you like. This will always be your current color that you're in on your foreground color, and this will be the new color that you're going to make. I'm going to pick a red up here for some of the tulips. I'm going to bring my color picker to this position right here, and I'm going to click OK. I should now have a brush that has a red color for the brush color right now. And if I came over and started coloring one of these petals, you would notice that we're just merely putting an opaque paint over this flower. That does not look very good. So what we want to do is we want to come over to our layer palette, and we want to go down to the drop down menu. Make sure that this layer 1 palette is highlighted, and we drop down our blending mode color, and we're going to go down here to overlay. We're going to click on overlay, and that puts this particular layer in overlay mode. What overlay mode will let us do is it'll allow us to put color over our gray image, but we will actually be able to see through that and see the detail and the texture that's below the color itself. So now we can come in here and we can just start drawing on color. And if you need a smaller brush, you can size your brush down just a little bit to fit in there. What I also want you to notice is when we're in some of these blend modes, this particular color will not show up if we draw over white. There are no pixels in white, so we cannot colorize those. You'll notice if I come up here to where there's a slightly bit of gray up here, if I come in here, you're starting to see a little bit of color. Or if I actually come over to where there's darker gray, the color becomes more vibrant and more saturated. That's how it knows where to draw on these flowers. So what you're going to do is come through, pick a color that you like, go in and start coloring each one of the tulips. You can change colors if you want. You can go over to the color picker and find maybe a yellow color here, and you could paint some of the flowers yellow. We have some green stems in here also. We might want to find a green color. I'm going to clip on a green here, and I can come in here and I can actually start painting over some of these flower stems to get our color that we need. You'll notice also in the tulips up here that we do have some stems that come out of the tulip heads. So you may want to come in and hand color those. There's a number of them. We can also see that we have some leaves in here that could be colored. We're going to go through and carefully color those. If you make a mistake and go out of the bounds and create a color that you don't want, you can always do undo by hitting Command Z or Control Z on a PC, and that will undo your last step. So we're going to go through here and continue to color flowers and stems, change your colors around. I know there aren't any blue tulips out there, but as we come in here and color these, I just want you to play around with the colors so you can see what we're actually doing on these. Take a minute and go through each one of those. One other thing that I want to show you, you'll notice that when we created our layer over here, we did so by putting everything on this layer in what's called an overlay color blend mode. There are a couple of other color blend modes that work just as well with this process. Another one would be color. If you click on color, you'll notice my colors are a little bit more transparent and a little bit more muted. We can still come in and paint on this layer. We're just in a different blend mode. Not all blend modes work for this process. Another blend mode that would actually work well for this would be the one called soft light. Let me click on that and you can see what happens when I click on soft light. I'll go back up under our blend modes. I'll come up and click on soft light, and it gives us a different kind of a look. So depending on what look that you want, you could toggle through overlay color, which is pretty bold and pretty saturated. Soft light gives you just a little bit more of a muted look, And if you come down to the color blend mode, which is the one that I use quite frequently, it gives you a good color, a little bit more transparent and a little bit lighter. You can pick what one that you like and works the best for you. When you get through taking and coloring all of these flower heads, you can take those and you can flatten this layer down and save it as a JPEG, or you can save it as a Photoshop document, keeping this layer available in case you want to come back and modify it. That's basically how I come in and convert a grayscale image into a color image and do the hand coloring on it. I hope that this has helped you out. Thank you.